Hi guys, and welcome back. And today we are going on a genuine unexpected journey as we 3D print and then paint and create a display base for a Hobbit. So I designed the figure on the Hero Forge website, which I think is a fabulous website and very easy to use, and then printed it on the Anycubic Photon 2. So we'll have a quick look at that process and getting it off the print base and all that sort of thing, cleaning it up and getting it nice and ready for painting. And this was very unexpected. It came along sort of as a commission from a friend of mine for her friend's birthday. So her nickname is Hobbit, and this is what came into my head. So we'll have a look at the creation of the figure and then get into the painting and finally creating a nice little display base for it. So here we are. It's coming out of the vat, which is where the liquid resin is stored for when you're printing. You shouldn't store it there long term. You should empty it back out into your bottle after you've sieved it in, which is a very painful process. And then getting it off the print bed. And I've found that the spatula sort of thing that comes with the printer is too thick. And so I've resorted to using a razor blade, and that seems to work really well. It's held on by suction. And the better you've got your print bed leveled, and that's not the result of a level print bed, that base ended up being tossed. Yeah, the leveler it is, and the more closely you've aligned it, the better your prints come. Then chucking it into the bucket of isopropyl alcohol, and that just cleans off all of the excess resin. And because I'm a lazy bastard at heart, I got one of these Anycubic cleaning machines. And it just means you virtually don't have to touch the damn stuff all the way through until it comes out. So there it is. It's got all its supports. They need to be removed. Now you can remove it before you cure it, or you can remove it after you cure it. And I've tried both. And without any great scientific research, I think it's better to remove it after it's cured. They tend to be a little more brittle and just come away a little bit easier, I think. But look, I haven't done enough to be considered even remotely competent on this. I'm still finding my way. But the old washing machine and curing station all in one just makes life so much easier. I think it was a couple of $100. I'm not entirely sure, but I think a really worthwhile investment. Just makes it all the more easier. So you can set a distinct timer for it, and it just spins around. That's it off the curing process, and now it's just a matter of using the old clippers, and I try and stay as far away from the figure as possible, and so don't try and do it all in one hit. Just get the damn support base off. And then the only other thing you need to do is clean it up like you would any figure for sprue gate marks or seams. Well, there shouldn't be any seams. Give it a bit of a tidy up, a bit of sanding, scrape with the scalpel, and then we'll move into the painting. Now, just before we get into that, I wonder if you could all do me a huge favour and indulge me for the next minute and 6 seconds and watch the following little presentation, and there will be something in it for you and perhaps something else in it for you at the end. Mums. Without them. Fed you. Nursed you. Protected you. Make Mum's day. Visit jjcelebrationhabits.com. Free delivery anywhere in Australia. 10% off with the code ELEDON. Don't make Mum angry. So this is my wife's business. She's just been getting it up and running online over the last few months. And we only ship within Australia. So I know there'll be lots of people watching from overseas. We can't ship overseas at this stage. But if you've got friends, family, or loved ones in Australia, what a great way to let them know that you're thinking of them for birthdays or christenings. It doesn't have to be just Mother's Day, but your mum might be over here. And as an extra bonus, for anyone purchasing a hamper between now and the end of April, using the discount code Hallidan, which will give you 10% off anyway, and free delivery, of course, to anywhere in Australia. In addition to that, anyone who purchases using that code will go into the draw for this Smart Kit, Dragon Smart Kit Panther G, late production, and that's coming out of my kick, and I will ship that anywhere in the world. That's it, guys. I really appreciate you listening and let me do this. We'll run this campaign over April, leading up into Mother's Day, and then there might be subsequent ones with also extra little giveaways as the year unfolds. Anyway, thank you again, and back to the show. So on with the painting and the old Vallejo surface primer. It's pale grey. And I did this with a brush, not for any particular reason other than just my laziness coming out, and I just couldn't be fagged cleaning the airbrush after doing this, because this will dry pretty quickly, and I wanted to get into getting the base colours on, so no downside for doing it with the brush. It's pretty thin, doesn't leave any brush marks. Now the recipient of this is a redhead, so it's loose, and that's all I know. I've never actually seen or met her, so that's all I really know. So I use that as my basis for getting my head around what the rest of it will look like. And as typical, this is the way I paint everything. Just get the base colours down. Pretty much use Vallejo acrylic paints for everything. But with this, I decided that I would get all the base colours down with the Vallejo, and then I'd just do a little bit of experimentation with oils for the skirt and the top. Now, the trouble with painting something like this, of course, is you can't hide your sins with a wash to make them look dirty and as if they've been in the thick of battle, so I had to try and keep everything clean and make sure I was fairly careful with the details. So reasonably happy with that for the base coat. Worked up on the hair a little bit more and then moved into the oils. And initially just going for darkening in the shadow areas under the rather ample Hobbit cleavage there. Then mixed a little bit of white in with the green to make it lighter, and just looking to do some highlighting and some light directional light effects. Theoretically, that's what I was trying anyway. And then onto the skirt, and that was just the red oil paint with a little bit of the brown. I think it was burnt ochre. And again there, just looking to get into the shadow areas and the low lying areas. So that came up reasonably well. I was happy with that. And the display base was literally just made of scraps. So I just found an old piece of dressed pine in the shed, which was pretty filthy. I think I'd used it to hold parts down and spray paint them, so it was a bit tacky, blue tack, and it had some grey or some black overspray on it. But I wasn't too worried about that because I am a big believer in sanding. If you sand things long enough, timber that is, you'll eventually get it back to a nice piece of wood. So it was pretty crap, as you can see, but probably a good 45 minutes of sanding started to bring it back to something that looked like it would take a stain reasonably well. which is what I did next. And fearful of trees falling on me, I decided, as it was a small job, I'd just do it in the cave rather than risk death in the outside world, and just rub that on with a soft cloth. And I think I did about 3 or 4 coats overall. And give that a nice coat of gloss. Well, in fact, a couple of coats of gloss, to be truth. And then turn the attention to the second display base that I printed out, which I was much happier with, and it was actually level, so that's a plus. But was not 3-dimensional enough in the way I built the cobblestones in Tinkercad, so just went through a little painstaking exercise of putting some polymer clay to sort of give them a rounded top and make them look a little bit more like actual cobblestones. So I'm a bit over cobblestones, to be honest. I've done far too many in the last couple of weeks. And just prior to baking them, just to smooth it all off, I use some turpentine on the end of a brush. Now, you can use lots of things. You can use olive oil, and I just use the terps because I've got it. It's probably a little bit harsh, but it worked fine in this instance. And then on with the plaque. So again, a light misting of gold in this instance, followed up with a black wash. And really wanted that to make the lettering quite prominent. And as I said, this was all built from scrap, so that's literally a cut-off 3mm piece of MDF that I just found in my collection of bits of wood. Measured that up very scientifically by just tracing the inside of the box. I had 2 good square edges, so I thought that was a 50% better than I could have been. And using the little miter saw, which is a very fine tooth blade, to cut my way through there. Sanding up to just make it all nice and tidy. And that's a pretty good fit for me. I'd say it's within 1/2 mil. I wanted some felt on the bottom, so this is a bit of the leftover felt that I used on the first encounter diorama base that went up a day or so ago. It, much to my surprise, sticks. I've always stuck it to just the core flute plastic, but it sticks very well to the timber. And now that fits in there very snugly. And I just decided to use the UV curing glue because I didn't want a lot of wet glue hanging around in the cracks that might seep through the felt. So I wanted that sorted pretty quickly. And I also used the UV curing glue to put the glass lens in the magnifying glass. So I just made a little dam wall for it at the back with a piece of gloss covered paper, and that was just off some packaging. Poured in the glue, hit it with the UV light for, in this instance, because it was a little bit thicker, a couple of minutes. Time to secure the name plate. And I've got those tiny little jeweler's screws that I bought a while ago, just perfect for this. I think the plate's 3mm and the screws are 6mm, so it's just perfect. Have baked the cobblestones onto the base now, so I want the underside of the base to have a nice matte black finish, and then came back in and gave everything except the lettering on the front side of the nameplate a matte finish. And then it was just a matter of painting the old cobblestones, overall unifying colour, and then just picking out random stones. It's very hard to be consciously random. Well, I find it's very hard to be consciously random. I tend to find I'm going into a pattern. You can see here, it's like every other one. I'll just move across every other one, and then I go, hang on a minute, no, I'll have a couple in between the next one. So just making a diluted solution of white glue and mixing that up, and then painting that liberally all over the base. But I only want it in the actual cracks. So coming back along with a Q-tip to try and get as much of it as I can off the top of the cobbles. And then pouring on just actual dirt from my backyard, so sieved very fine. And then back in with the Q-tips after about 15 minutes, I suppose, just to take the bulk of it off the top, not being super duper careful. Not all cracks will have dirt in them. And then I just whacked a little bit of static grass in a couple of strategic places. Whack some pins in her feet, and that's about it. So we'll come back with the final review right now. So there she is, all finished, and really happy with how she came out. So enjoy a couple of laps on the magic spinning wheel and then some close-up still photos. And I'll then be back to say goodbye. So thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy. I'll see if I can find some suitable Hobbit music. So if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and share. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and ding the donger. And of course, leave a comment because I love reading them. Cheers!